Yo, what's going on? We back here. It's your boy Tilly. Today we gonna be getting into what if Deku was Gojos reincarnation part 2. I ain't gonna yap too much. We gonna get right on into the video. We gonna be starting off right from where we left off. And as you know, if you like the video, make sure you like and comment on what y'all want to see next, or what you guys might even want to see in this series. You guys just let me know. I'm gonna try to do videos and what ifs on a ton of different things. Without further ado, let's cue that intro.
I got loyalty inside my DNA. I got loyalty inside my DNA. I got loyalty, got war and peace inside my DNA. I got pain and joy inside my DNA.
Alright, so we last left off with Izuku Midoriya waking up the next morning. And again, just like waking up in complete and utter shock. Like, part of him still believes that it was still a dream, which honestly, I can't blame him. Like, that's something so random and crazy to happen. But he tries to not let it bother him too much. He just thinks that if he goes on about his day normally, that same feeling, that weird feeling in the back of his mind would just fade. Quick spoiler, it didn't. Something shifted within Izuku. Not in his body, but in the way he noticed the world around him. Whether he wanted to admit it or not, that night had changed him forever. We then skip to the next day. At first, nothing dramatic really happens. Deku still wakes up late, still rushes to school, always tripping over his shoes, being clumsy sometimes. But now, there's certain moments where his body just reacts before his thoughts even are able to catch up. Like, for example, a door swings open too fast, he leans back without thinking, or a kid bumps into him, he's able to twist just enough to avoid falling. Each time Deku pauses afterwards, just thinking like, that was really weird, He never tells anybody. He doesn't even like write it down in his notebook, which is crazy because he's writing everything down in his notebook. But instead he just convinces himself it's a coincidence. It's like he doesn't want to believe what's going on right now. Still, things are the same though for the most part. Class still hasn't changed. Quirks are still everything, obviously. Kids are always arguing about whose quirk is better. Teachers always praising the strongest ones, the weak, always just in the background, that being Deku for the most part. Deku usually sits quietly, scribbling notes like always. Then you have Bakugo actually now coming into the scene, always louder than everyone else, always talking about schools like it's already decided. Obviously, talking about schools like UA. During lunch, trying to kind of take a shot at Midoriya, Bakugo says out loud in front of everybody, UA is the only school worth going to. Come on, everybody knows that. If you know you're too weak to even make it, why even try? You're just gonna embarrass yourself. Then everyone starts laughing, the entire class, and Deku is staring at Bakugo. And Bakugo ends up noticing, and Bakugo says, "What? You got something to say?" Deku then shakes his head. "No, I don't." Bakugo then scoffs at Deku, but for whatever reason, something's bothering him. Maybe it's the fact that Deku isn't getting super sad or frustrated or shrinking like the way that he used to. He seems calm, Bakugo thinks to himself, like almost way too calm, but he eventually just brushes it off. Then we get another little skip, but just later to that night. Deku, after that long day, ends up falling asleep on his bed. Once he does, that same dream state that he felt a couple days ago returns, which he is super shocked about again because the last time that happened was, a couple days ago. But before that, it was years apart. But now it's happening only 2 days after it just previously happened. This time, though, that blank white space feels more solid now. Everything around him seems like he's actually standing there, if that makes sense. And Gojo's there, just sitting there, stretching like he's been bored or out of his mind. And attempting to break the ice, he tells Deku, "You seem quieter." And Deku just responds with, "I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to ask." And then Gojo kind of just responds with a smart remark, telling Deku that, well, if that's the case, that's good. That means that you're going to be having an easier time listening. He then walks past Deku and continues talking. "Tell me, what did you feel today? Not necessarily what you thought, but what did you feel?" Deku kind of hesitantly responds, telling him that, well, now that you mention it, there were a couple times where it felt like I noticed things before they happened, like my mind or my body instinctively was reacting to things that were happening around me. It felt like I was awake, like even more than normal. Gojo just responds to him, "That's your awareness." Deku then asks, "Then why does it feel so heavy?" Gojo stops and looks at him. "Because you tense up when you're scared, duh. Your body and your mind isn't used to this. Next time you get that feeling, try not to fight it. Just stay calm and try to control it and just let it pass." Deku just says, "And what if I mess up?" And Gojo just says, "You will. A lot. But that's just how learning works. Trust me. You'll get the hang of it." The next day, Deku then wakes up, trying to comprehend and think about what Gojo told him and apply that the best he could. Even though Gojo never gave him an exact explanation on what he meant by what he said, he still tried to listen to Gojo's instructions. The words of staying calm and just letting that feeling pass and trying his best to control it, rather than having that heaviness overwhelm him. He tries to do just that. He fails, like, a lot. For example, one day Bakugo shoved him from behind. Izuku then instinctively tenses up his body as he's about to fall, which is exactly what Gojo didn't want him to do, because that's what his body naturally was doing, and he's trying to break that habit from him. So in that placement of fear is just more focus. And because he ended up getting scared and tensing up, he just ends up falling hard on his face, and then people around him just start laughing at him. And, of course, he picks himself up, but he's very frustrated, he's visibly upset. And he just thinks to himself, "Damn it, I did exactly what he told me not to do." And then we cut later to that day, again, when he's back home, still visibly frustrated from that, because he doesn't really understand how he's supposed to control that instinct that his body just naturally has. So we cut, like I said, later to that day, ends up going to sleep, meets again up with Gojo, and Gojo doesn't even scold him. He understands, but he knows what happened. He isn't mad at him. He just tells him, "I know you tried to control it by force. What happened? You were thinking way too hard about it." And Izuku's just "I panicked." And Gojo tells him exactly. And then Gojo sits down and basically tells him, "Your body is naturally tensing up because it's preparing to take damage, which in turn is also making you scared, which causes you to panic and kind of forget what I'm trying to tell you. If you can learn to restrain that feeling and learn to stay calm in these certain situations, we can actually start making some progress." And Izuku kind of just nods his head and is like, "All right." And he says this, but he really doesn't understand still. He doesn't really fully get it. But now he kind of sees what Gojo's trying to say a little bit more clearly. But in all honesty, he's still kind of confused. It's a very confusing concept for him. And now we get another small time skip. Deku is now around 13 years old. Over time, he's been able to learn and control his emotions a little bit more, which has kind of caused him to be different than what he is in the actual show. In the show, we know he's a little bit more whiny and a lot more expressive with how he acts. But here, he still has that same character. He's not super cold like Todoroki, but he is a lot more mature, I guess you could say, especially even at this young age. But as all of the students, along with Izuku, are getting older and more people's quirks are developing more and more, UA becomes the main topic for everything. Literally, kids are talking about the entrance exams all the time, and teachers stop hiding their expectations. And one of the teachers actually confronts Izuku and is like, "Midoriya, you need to just focus on graduating." And it's dang, you're gonna just say that to his face, But like I said, Izuku is completely different from how he is in the actual show, so he doesn't really let that little bit of negativity bother him. Of course, he understands what the teacher meant by saying that, but Bakugo, on the other hand, has not changed a bit. So, he doesn't really care for Izuku. So, once he gets the chance to pick on him, he's going to. And unfortunately, he overhears the teacher's conversation with Izuku. And so he asks Izuku himself, "You're still dreaming about being a hero?" And Deku kind of just looks at him. He's not even angry or scared of him anymore at this point. And he kind of just is like, "Yeah, I'm thinking about it." And for whatever reason, that response just completely pissed off Bakugo, completely annoyed him. And he kind of just freezes for a second because, he's thinking like, did he just double down? But he kind of just laughs it off and pretends that it didn't bother him. But like, we all know, like, it definitely did. It definitely did. And the reason he's like so calm in these situations is because, like I said, Gojo and him, they're still having these like things almost every night now, super frequently. These little conversations here and there. And it's kind of like Gojo is teaching him certain things without directly saying what they are, because cursed energy and, again, Gojo's technique of all techniques are extremely complicated, especially for a 13-year-old kid in a completely different universe that knows nothing about cursed energy at all, which is why he's just been trying to kind of build him up mentally so he can look back at certain lessons that he's being taught and that he's been taught in the past as he was growing up, so that when he does learn cursed energy and does eventually, get certain techniques, he has certain things that he can go off of to kind of make learning these things a little easier. But now we kind of get into another time skip, just a year though. Now he's 14 years old. And rather than him either going to school or going back to sleep, we actually start off with Izuku walking home from school. But randomly, Izuku starts slowing down a little bit, and he's like just thinking to himself, something doesn't feel right, like something feels off. Like he feels it in his chest, and he thinks to himself, like, I'm getting that same feeling again that I used to get all the time. And then randomly, he just hears a scream cut through the street as he's walking home, and thinking to himself, what the heck is that? And he sees just a sludge like just explode from the sewer, and it grabs somebody. And he's like, is that Bakugo? And he just freezes. Because of course, although Bakugo has been bullying him his entire life, and this Deku isn't the same Deku that we know, he still has like that kind of fascination about him, and he kind of admires Bakugo the same way that he did in the show. And so when he freezes, everything in him is like, run away, like now. And then he just kind of thinks to himself, and he's calm. He just goes calm, and he's like, just try to get out of his head and just stay calm. And he finally comes to a sense of mind and clarity, and then he just takes a step forward. And as soon as he takes a step, about to approach the sludge creature, a big boom, and like just a large gust of wind just comes crashing right down. And then a tall figure just lands between them, and it's no other than All Might. And he just does his little catchphrase, and he's like, fear not, I am here. And then it just cuts back to Deku, and he's just staring right up at him, and he's just standing there, mouth wide open in shock as he's staring at All Might. Like, he literally can't believe what he's seeing right now. And then out of nowhere, for the first time throughout his entire life, he randomly hears Gojo's voice while he's awake, and Gojo, just kind of amused, low-key breaking the fourth wall right here, is just like, yeah, this is definitely one of those main character moments, huh? And then the sludge monster ends up getting up again and charges at them, which is where it cuts off. And that's where I'm going to end this part off. Gotta leave it off on a cliffhanger. I'm really excited for this next part. It's starting to get crazy now. And the next part, that's hopefully where we're going to start seeing some things start developing within Izuku. I'm not going to say what exactly, but there's going to be some certain things that he's going to start being able to do and learn. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I also got a question for y'all. Once we get to that point, should we or should we not also have Izuku learn One for All as well? Should he still get that from All Might, or should we have it go to somebody else like who was originally supposed to go to? Or maybe a new character we introduced that ends up getting it, and maybe a little rivalry or something between them, or, I guess we'll figure that out. Part 3, it's in the works. I will be releasing it soon. I'm not going to make you guys wait too long, but I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Again, had a lot of fun making it. It's genuinely starting to get crazy now, and I really do hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch y'all boys in the next one. Peace.